Hello, 7th graders. Today in science, what you're going to be working on is a gizmo that talks about the cell energy cycle. That cell energy cycle involves the processes of cellular respiration and photosynthesis that we've started learning about the last few days. So this gizmo packet that you're going to be seeing is pretty long. I only suggest you do like the first 2 pages today. We're going to pace this out over a few days. So as you can see on the slide here, we are going to be working on this next week also. Ideally, I'm thinking that we'll have Wednesday as the due date, but stay tuned for that. But if you're looking to pace yourself out on this Gizmos packet that you're going to have, try and get the first 2 pages done today. So if we go over to Safari, I've got the Gizmos opened up here, and I've got the packet open in Notability here. I've got it split screen so I can see both of them. As always with the Gizmo, you're going to start with a couple of prior knowledge questions. So if you look at this, these are going to be questions that you should answer before you even start messing with the Gizmo. So the first one says, what does a plant need to survive and grow? And these are prior knowledge questions. So if you need to guess, then guess. It's okay. The second question, what does an animal need to survive and grow? Use what you already know, what we've learned in science this year, what you've learned, in elementary and 6th grade science. Maybe you've been to a nature center for some programming. If you went to Riverbend, just think back on what you know to answer these questions. Third question says, how do animals depend on each other? Or animals and plants depend on each other. So this is, are there products that some create that others use? Maybe they get food from each other. What are ways that animals and plants are dependent on each other? Once you've answered those questions, we're going to go to the warm-up. And so, as always, with Gizmos, they highlight the vocabulary terms. These two should look sort of familiar to you after the reading assignment this week, photosynthesis and respiration. So we're going to be looking at both of these processes in this gizmo. It says, although both of these processes involve a series of complex steps, the inputs and outputs of each process are 4 relatively simple molecules. And they've got them listed over here. Okay, oxygen, glucose, carbon dioxide, and water. And then it's asking you what the formulas are for these 4 things. And so the formulas are given to you right here in these colored boxes. So you're just going to take that information and copy it over to here. Okay. On page 2, you're actually going to be getting into the gizmo. So with gizmos, if you have the patience to read it and do what it tells you, generally they're pretty easy to do and easy to follow. So the first activity, they always give you instructions on how to get it set up. So it says, if necessary, click reset. So the reset button is over here, bottom left sort of the gizmo. Check that the photosynthesis tab is selected, and check that description is turned on. So the photosynthesis tab that they're talking about is right here. Okay, you notice you've got 3 tabs over here: photosynthesis, respiration, and cycle. And then when it says show description turned on, they're talking about this checkbox right here. So make sure that is checked before you start. In the introduction here, it says photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast, an organelle found in plant and algae cells. Within the chloroplast, a green pigment called chlorophyll converts the radiant energy of the sunlight into chemical energy that the plant can use. So this is the light energy that we were talking about yesterday in the notes. The question that you're going to be looking at in this first part is, what are the inputs and outputs of photosynthesis? So these would be like the raw materials and the products that we were talking about yesterday. First, it says to make a prediction. Of the molecules shown in the molecules pane, which do you think are inputs or ingredients, and which do you think are outputs? So they're talking about these over here. Molecules is right here. That's the molecules pane that they're talking about. We've got oxygen, glucose, carbon dioxide, and water. Now, if you remember from yesterday and the last couple days, you might be able to answer these questions. But it says predict, so you're making a guess. So if you don't remember, that's all right. write down your best guess. What are the things? Inputs would be the ingredients, so this would be the things before the arrow in the chemical formula. Outputs would be like the products. Okay, so what are the things that are made or are going out of this process of photosynthesis? And make your guess there. Number 2 says explore. Drag each molecule from the molecule's pane to the chloroplast on the photosynthesis pane. If a molecule is an input, it will stay in the chloroplast. So all you need to do is you're going to go over here and drag it to the chloroplast. It didn't stay. Let's try the glucose. Didn't stay. Carbon dioxide. That stayed. Water. That stayed. Okay, so then what you're going to need to do, the question asks, which molecules are inputs in photosynthesis? So you're going to write down these two that just stayed there. You'd write down CO2 and H2O, or you could write carbon dioxide and water if you wanted to use their full names. Number 3 says, click Add Light and look at the output. What are the outputs of photosynthesis? So this button over here is Add Light. So if you click on that, or tap on it with your finger. So we're going to add the light, and here it shows us the outputs. What are the outputs of photosynthesis? So you're going to write down what slid over here. We've got O2 and C6H12O6. So that would be oxygen and glucose. So that'd be your answer for number 3 here. Number 4 says summarize. Through photosynthesis, or although photosynthesis is a complex process involving many reactions, it can be summarized by a simplified formula that shows the inputs on the left and the outputs on the right. Based on your observations, write a simple formula for photosynthesis. So this is going to be the same formula we were talking about in class yesterday and the day before. Your inputs are going to go here. So if you look back up at this question, or if you look over here at the gizmo, your inputs are going to be the things that you started with, your ingredients, and then your outputs over here are going to be the things that were created. So that's going to be the 2 that were just in the last question. And you're going to write those in there. Now, to check and see if you're right, there's this show input output formula. You click on that, and it's going to show you the formula down on the bottom here. It says H2O plus CO2, and they've got the sun there to show you the light makes O2 plus C6H12O6. That's going to be glucose. Were you correct in your guess here? Right, yes or no? Next, the challenge. To balance the inputs and outputs of an equation, there should be the same number of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen atoms on each side of the arrow. Is the formula balanced as written? Why or why not? So if you are looking at this formula, we've got 2 H's here, and we've got 12 H's over here. Is that balanced? Is it equal? We have 1 oxygen plus 2 more oxygens. We've got 3 oxygens on the left, and we've got 2 plus 6 on the right, so there's 8 on the right. Is that the same? That's what they're asking here, for it being balanced. So yes or no, and then why? You could say there are less hydrogens, oxygens, carbons also on the input side, or on the left, than there are on the right. Part B says, now balance the input and output formula by adding coefficients to each molecule. Write the balanced formula below, and then check your work by clicking balance. Okay, coefficients are going to be numbers in front of the formulas. So if you were looking at the chemical formula in the reading packet, that formula was balanced. They had some numbers in front of water, they had a number in front of carbon dioxide, a number in front of oxygen over here on the right. And so you could take a look at that and write that out. The coefficients would go on this short line here. So you're going to put your formula on the larger lines, and then if there are any numbers to make it balanced, you would write those in on the first line. Then if you want to check if you got it right, you just click balance over here in the gizmo, and it's going to balance it out for us. We've got 6 waters plus 6 carbon dioxides makes 6 oxygen and 1 glucose molecule. And if you feel like you've spent enough time today, you can stop there. If you would like to keep going, so you've got less to do next week, go ahead and start activity B. To set it up, you're going to click reset over here. Doesn't want to work with my mouse. And then we're going to select the respiration tab, which is the middle one right here. And they've got a picture of a mitochondria here to get us started. And this is pretty similar to what you did with photosynthesis. You can just continue, follow the steps, do what it says. But we'll be working on this again next week. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.